Billy, what's going on here, my friend?
What's going on?
Yeah.
This is what is it?
This is a scale model of a new proposal that we have for New York City,
Okay.
and we're really excited about presenting that here at the TWA Hotel. It's a twin statue to partner the one that we unveiled 10 years ago in Liverpool's waterfront to commemorate the Beatles leaving their hometown and setting off for the dizzying heights of the world stage by the Ed Sullivan Show 60 years ago this week.
Lovely. Now, Billy, have you met Andy before? Is this the first moment?
No, Andy is working on a project with me. He's done a bust with me, which hopefully people are saying we should make it a statue.
So the rest of you.
Yes.
So you start from the head up, right?
Well, yeah. Billy's been kind enough to have 3 sittings with me in Liverpool, and we've chatted and I've studied Billy and we've come up with a portrait, and I think there's enough interest, and certainly a legend like Billy is deserving of a permanent statue, so the bust is an introduction to that project.
Lovely.
And this is an introduction to another statue project.
And this statue, so you are a sculptor, right? You've been a sculptor, Andy, for how long?
I've been a sculptor since I was playing with mud at the age of about 3.
Okay. Is that also known as dirt? Is that what we say? Mort is dirt? Is that what you're?
I'm very down to earth, a very earthy kind of guy. But I'm very privileged to have sculpted the most popular statue in the UK officially, which is the Beatles statue, of course, on the waterfront there. And this is the next part of that story, really. This is where the Beatles reached the rest of the world thanks to the hospitality of this amazing city, New York.
Now, what will you be sculpting it in?
It will be sculpted in a number of materials, but the end product is the most prestigious of all materials, and that is bronze, of course. Okay, I'm really proud to be here today at the TWA Hotel. Amongst all these legends on the wall, Liz Taylor, Marilyn, Paul Newman, and these legends standing in front of me are Billy J. Kramer and Tyler, who built this incredible hotel. And we're here for a really special unveil, and that is a new project to twin what our team already did in Liverpool, England, which was to create the most popular statue in the UK of the Beatles, of course. And this week is 60 years since the world changed and the Beatles landed and were hosted here in JFK Airport. And we're going to unveil a scale model to show New York City and the world what we'd like to do to commemorate that iconic monument. So I'd like to hand over to Billy J. Kramer, the legend himself, to unveil this scale model.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to be here, Andy.
A pleasure to be here. There we go. Just to tell you a little bit more about this project, this statue represents the Beatles on the tarmac at JFK when they first landed, and as you can see, they're overawed with excitement. They couldn't believe the crowds, they couldn't believe the reception they got here in the city, and we're trying to capture that excitement, that moment, the four-headed beast that the Beatles were, this unit, and there's lots of iconic things about this. It's intending to be a kind of a 3D encyclopedia of the history of the Beatles, from John Lennon's famous leather cap made by Helen Anderson, Ringo flashing the peace sign, George Harrison is palming a silver coin with the portrait of Jack Kennedy on 1964, and they've got the flight bags and they're ready to go to the Plaza Hotel. And 2 nights later, they appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show and the world changed.
Rock and roll to me was kind of like a bit in the pits, not in the pits, but it was fading a little. And I mean, at the time, Rolf Harris was #1 in the charts with Timey Kangaroo Dance Sport. And I was sitting at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, and I thought, this place needs the Beatles to shake the place up. And the Beatles came, and I always say to people, the Beatles opened the doors to America for all of us. Before then, it was a very difficult market. There was people like Cliff Richard, who's still a mega star in Britain, had not done a thing in America, and it took the Beatles, who were very special, to open the door. And I always tell people now, they opened the door back then, and even the people who are making it today, it's all because of what the Beatles did back then.
So it turns out that sculpture and art was really based upon the automobile industry, which I did not realize. And buildings then kind of, started following suit. They used to just make plain buildings, like just brownstone, straight kind of things. But this building by Aero Sarin is a wonderful.
This building's incredible. This is like being on another planet in the best possible way. I was so shocked when we arrived. I mean, you get some kind of feeling what it must have been like for the Beatles. I mean, the landscape's changed, but the people are the same. And it's just, wow, you just can't believe the people. Yeah, Wedgwood is a great tradition in pottery ware, but Josiah Wedgwood was an interesting figure as well because he was a leading abolitionist. So, and he was an originator in all kinds of ways as well. So I grew up with that kind of legacy. So that led me to people like Frederick Douglass and stuff, who we've got a statue of just down the road in the University of Maryland. And I'm hoping that this statue of the Beatles will be my second piece here in the States. Yeah.
So the Frederick Douglass sculpture that you did is in Maryland right now, correct?
Yeah.
How did you get commissioned to do something like that?
Well, a friend visited the motel, the museum, to Dr. King, and he saw a feature on the wall about Frederick Douglass and about how influenced he was visiting Dublin in 1846. He met the liberator Daniel O'Connell. The two guys shared views, influenced each other, and Frederick Douglass said to Daniel O'Connell, when the immigrants arrive in New York, these guys are your friends. These guys have been kicked out of where they live, and they've faced persecution and discrimination, and these are your allies, these are your friends. Amongst many other things that the two men learned. So how do we get talking about that? Frederick Douglass is I was really proud to see that statue unveiled by his great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter, Nettie Douglass. And I just love this country so much, and I'd love to do more work over here. And it just seems like that tradition of figurative sculpture has still got a great appeal, like the Beatles have.
Yes. In fact, there's a lot of nice sculpture in London and in England. There's like the famous Churchill sculpture where he's sitting on the bench with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, right? And obviously, so tell us about your sculptures, though, because there are pieces that you've already sculpted. This is another sculpture that you're going to be unveiling.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to be practicing statuary for 30-something years now. I do political figures, of course, like Frederick Douglass. I do sporting figures, and I do figures from the musical world. David Bowie, Bob Marley.
Really?
Yeah, we've done a statue of Bob Marley for a road in Liverpool called Jamaica Street. We've kind of reappropriated the name, so people think that it's named Jamaica Street because Bob Marley's statue's there. And we've done the Bee Gees, who were actually born in a little tiny island called the Isle of Man, just off the west coast of England. So we did a statue for them for the hometown. Again, walking down the street, like the statue of the Beatles. When people come off the cruise ships and they arrive in the docks at Liverpool, the first thing they see is 4 friendly faces walking towards them. I know those guys.
Yes.
And they get closer, and it's the Beatles.
And who sculpted that?
I sculpted that nearly 10 years ago now. And the first thing I did after finishing that sculpture was to say, I want to do it again. I want to do another Beatles statue. So this project we brought to New York has been live for 10 years, really. It's been an ambition to do the arrival after we did the leaving. Because that's the story. The story is about exchanging the culture, because the Beatles got their music from the records that arrived in Liverpool from the States, all the soul music and the rock and roll, and they interpreted that, and then they brought it back home here to the States.
Do you know who the pilot was of those actual records? It was actually a friend of ours. His name's Barry Cohen. And I have the story on my cell phone number. Yes. Do you want to see it? Yeah. One moment, please. Hold on.
It was at 6 a.m. on February the 10th, 1964, as I lifted up the runways at LaGuardia by myself into the dark sky to deliver the first ever Beatles record sleeves to various record factories. I strapped boxes of 7-inch 45 sleeves into the passenger seats, and even one in the co-pilot's seat. Wow, the weekend work by Queens Litho and Barry as the pilot set off for a whole new adventure for all involved. The dividends of that event are still with me today. The flight of the Beatles. Come on.
So I just got that. He just texted me today. And so, the thing that I love best about this entire fest is these are magical moments. But because you're a sculptor, you have left a legacy. You realize that, right? How many families have taken their pictures next to your art? How does that make you feel? How does that impact you, Andy?
That's the best thing ever, because you get to not only to be stitched into history as part of like the kind of the outside of the Beatles' legacy, but to kind of follow on what they did, which is to bring people together. When people, there's always people having the photographs taken outside the statue in Liverpool, and rarely are those people in the picture taken speaking the same language.
Wow.
But they're right there in front of the Beatles. They've got a language in common, and that's the language of love and music.
So now you're seeking a few extra patrons to help you build this other sculpture here in New York, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. The Beatles story wouldn't be complete without a permanent statue and a place of pilgrimage here.
Yes.
And to get that, we need a number of things. We need the fans. We need the backing of the fans. And here at the fest, we've had overwhelming support for this project. We need a site, and we've looked at several around the city. We're taking advice on that, because this is not my own town. I wish that it was. And then we need support to actually build that and to create a permanent monument, somewhere that suits everyone, where everyone can access and where people can meet.
Well, a lot of people meet here. We're at an international airport, so I don't know either. But what about my backyard? Would my backyard work for the site? I don't know.
Well, if you could put a bid in, I'd certainly consider that.
Thank you. Andy, it was a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Happy journeys to you.
Thank you so much, Donna.
Stay tuned for more. We've been living it up. 15 years. This is probably like one of my favorite days. I'm really having a good time, and I hope that the stories we've been bringing you are helping you have a great time too. Thanks for watching.